Fox College football analyst Joel Klatt, our guest. A big noon Saturday in Columbus. The unbeaten Buckeyes hosting unbeaten Maryland. Ohio State a big favorite, but Maryland can move the football. Joel, what type of game are you expecting?
Well, it's going to be a game that really tests what we've been wondering about for Ohio State, which is their defense. You know, candidly, what you saw last year late in the season against Michigan and against Georgia for the Buckeyes was a defense that could not prevent the explosive play. They had 8 plays go against them that went for 40 yards or more in those 2 games alone. Big reason why they lost those 2 games. This year, they've been much better at that. Now, they haven't played the level of offense that you would say could really threaten you down the field, but they have not given up a 40-yard play. They're one of the few teams in the country that can say that. And here comes Maryland, is a team led by a quarterback in Taulia Tagovailoa, who's playing as well as anybody. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten. Thrown several touchdowns, very few interceptions, 300 yards per game. And this is a team that leads the Big Ten in 40-yard plays. So this is right where Maryland is strong. That's where my questions are about Ohio State's defense, in particular for their long term. So to me, that presents such a fascinating matchup when you look at the Buckeye defense and what they could be able to do.
Joel, the Red River Rivalry renewed at the Cotton Bowl on Saturday. This is the final time these 2 teams will meet as members of the Big 12. You have Texas at number 2 in the country, behind only Michigan in your latest rankings. You have OU 10th. You know how these rivalries go. Can the Sooners make this a ball game, Joel?
Sure. I mean, absolutely. I think the anomaly in a matchup like this is the blowout, even though that we've seen some blowouts both directions. The anomaly is last year, what we got for 49-0. Now, do I think Dylan Gabriel, who did not play in last year's game, is worth 49 points? Probably not. Now, having said that, I look at this Texas team. I believe that they're better than they were a year ago. The win at Alabama proved that to me. And then what they did in the subsequent games, crushing Baylor, crushing Kansas. This is a program that constantly, and we've talked about it, by the way, in previous years, played to the level of their competition. They didn't have an internal standard. Part of that was that they weren't good enough at the line of scrimmage to just go out there and blow teams out. They were constantly in games because they would give up too many yards on first down and too many first downs and too many points because of it. This year it's different. They've only given up 6 touchdowns as a defense in 5 games. They're still explosive on offense and yet rooted in substance because they can run the football. I know that because we saw it in the last 7 minutes against Alabama when they walked onto the field, never came off the field, and all they did was run 9 run plays. They didn't even have to throw it to end the game on the field as an offense. That tells me that they are built differently. On the other side, I've got questions about OU, but I do believe that they're very talented on the outside. I love their wide receivers. Nick Anderson, Andrel Anthony, Jalil Farouk, they're, as a combo, one of the best groups in the country on the outside. I really love them. Now, where they're not great as a unit is up front, their offensive line. And that's going to be a challenge for them because Texas is very good defensively. They can rush the passer, which they showed in that win against Alabama, in particular in the 4th quarter. I like Texas in this game. I think that they're the better team, but it won't shock me at all if it's close right down to the very end.
As somebody who loves college football as much as you do, and who has witnessed just about every great rivalry in person, how much do you appreciate the pageantry and kind of the unique nature of this game? State fair, neutral site, crowd split down the middle. It's really one of a kind, isn't it?
It really is, and it's a bit sad for me. Obviously, we're losing the opportunity to do this game, Gus and I, when the schools move to the SEC and the contracts are what they are as far as television partners. So it's a bit sad because I will tell you, when people ask me, what's your favorite environment to call a game at, they're always looking for a particular school or venue. And to me, it's actually about the word that I just said, and you said the environment. It's the Red River. The Red River has become my favorite game to call because of what goes on around it, in it. The noise in the game is constantly at a fever pitch, you know, split right down the 50. Such a unique game. I remember the very first time I got to go witness the Red River Rivalry. I always want to call it shootout, by the way, but Red River Rivalry. And I'll always remember the ability to call a few of them, including legendary Dicker the Kicker game.
Yes.
That was phenomenal game.
Joel, Texas A&M hosts Alabama Saturday in College Station. The Aggies were looking a little rough during that Miami loss. Now they host 11th-ranked Bama. Winnable game for Jimbo Fisher?
Well, remember, A&M has been right there against Alabama the last couple of years, you know. And Bama has always had trouble at Kyle Field. I think it's always been one of the toughest places to play. Great fan base, loud, and even more so than when I played there. I will say this, like, Alabama is playing with such a thin margin. If Jalen Milroe turns the ball over at all, they'll lose to Texas A&M. Texas A&M has the talent. I like Max Johnson. I'm bummed for Connor, but I like Max Johnson and what he can do on the offensive side. And this presents an interesting question, guys. What is the SEC this year if A&M wins and maybe Kentucky wins this weekend? I mean, it could throw the whole thing in flux where your two division leaders are Kentucky and Texas A&M. You know, that could be on a collision course to Atlanta. So this is a fascinating weekend in the SEC. And it, I think, centers around this A&M Alabama game. I think A&M will not only give them a game, but it won't shock me at all if they're able to go and get that victory.
Joel Klatt with Gus on Ohio State, Maryland, Saturday at 11 here on Fox 4. Joel, thanks as always for being with us.
Thanks, Joel.